Jesus looks at you, you know what he sees? He sees potential. He sees awesome potential.
I want you guys to be people that expect to see God move. I want you to expect God to use you, because what you carry inside of you has the limitless power of God behind it.
The only limits in your life are the ones that you accept yourself, because God is limitless, isn't that right?
God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called.
Here's a funny thing, you guys are here getting a vision for the future, serving a limitless God, is that right? Yes. Somebody, Tim, has invited a stupid blind man who can't even find his way to the front to show you the way into the future. A blind man pointing the way. Whoa! He's got to have a sense of humor to do that. Well, I guess God has got a sense of humor. Hey, just have to look around and see the people that He chooses. So we're all part of God's family, or we could be. There's so many things I could tell you about God, but I'm limited to just telling you about my experience with blindness. And I want to share with you some beautiful life principles that have turned my life around. I grew up in a country called Zimbabwe. It used to be called Rhodesia. It's just above, yes. Oh, some of you people, anyone from Zimbabwe? Woohoo! Pamberi, Zimbabwe. Hey, right, anyway. So, basically, praise the Lord. God is good. So, well, as a little boy growing up, nothing wrong with my eyesight. I didn't know I was going to go blind. So when I was 18, I joined the Air Force. My dad, he was a World War II fighter pilot. I was going to be a pilot like my dad. Went to join the Air Force. I failed my medical. Sorry, Mr. Hilton-Barber, your eyesight isn't good enough. You'll never be a pilot, never fly. I was really disappointed. 3 years later, I got the really good news. Miles, you're going to go totally blind. It's a genetic disease. It's jumped loads of generations. It hit me and my brother Jeffrey. I was depressed. I was unhappy. I was thinking, what the heck can I do with my life now? So one of my friends came, Miles, I'm so sorry. I've heard this horrible news. You're going to go totally blind. It's, I think, probably the worst thing that could happen to anybody in the whole world. And it's happened to you. And I thought, thank you for coming, and have another Coke. I'll just go and look for my gun, and I'll be back in a minute. So maybe some of you got friends like that. So right up till the age of 50, I thought no matter how great God was, if I was blind, I couldn't do very much with my life. And society, family, friends, everyone said, yes, blindness is a rubbish thing. It's a barrier. It's a handicap. It's a limitation. So I was praying maybe for God to heal me. But and then people said, oh, you haven't got enough faith. But in the end, God said to me, you know what? I think I can do more showing how my goodness and grace through you without healing you, I think this happened to the Apostle Paul as well. He had something wrong, maybe his eyes as well. So at the age of 50, what turned my life around was my brother, Jeffrey. He's also totally blind. He lives in Durban in South Africa. He built this yacht in his back garden by a field, totally blind. I mean, if you want a stupid hobby for a blind man, it's building a boat in the back garden, Who does he think he is, Noah or something? Anyway, so he launches it, and it doesn't sink. And everyone says, oh, bless. That was built by a blind man. 10 minutes, it's still afloat. Oh, bless. Isn't that lovely? So anyway, everyone said, Jeffrey, what are you going to do with that boat? He said, I'm going to sail it from South Africa to Australia, Durban to Fremantle, all by myself, nobody else on board, totally blind, down in the Southern Ocean, the wildest ocean in the world. Everyone said, Jeffrey, listen, buddy, it is impossible for a blind man to cross an ocean solo. You're not just a blind man, you're a stupid blind man. But my brother said, no, it's not impossible, just never been done before. So what turned my life around, you see, I used to think, to be happy, you've got to have nice things happening around you. Your life and my life has got two parts to it. One is what's going on around you, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Usually, what's happening out there comes into our head. We feel happy, sad. Next time you're feeling stressed up and down, it's what's happening out there. But another part of your life is here in your head, in your heart. And until the age of 50, I didn't understand that my blindness did not have to control my quality of life. Some of you here have got horrible things now in your life, or things that have happened in the past in your family or at school or whatever. And you think, that's going to limit what I can do. I'll give you some news. I don't care what's happened in the past. Nothing is more powerful than the blood of Jesus and the power of God. Is that right? Yes. So, So, even though I was a Christian, I thought I'm limited because I'm blind. And everyone said, yes, you're blind, you're limited. So, my brother sailed to Australia 51 days later. He got to Fremantle, and okay, he did nearly drown in a force-tin gale, massive waves as high as this roof, blowing him towards Antarctica, but he made it. So I now live in Derby in the UK, and I flew to Australia. Famous photograph at Fremantle Yacht Club, having a glass of Coke with my friend. We're clinking our glasses of beer with my brother. There's a famous photograph, but when they look at the photograph, one glass is here, the other one's way up in the air like that, looking really stupid, you know. And my kids say, Dad, don't pose. You look so embarrassing. So anyway, but now I was confused. You see, I had a limited life. I couldn't do much because I was blind. Everyone said society. Even people in church said, blind people, limited, you know, because, well, that's what you see. You see, you know, you look in the Bible, Bartimaeus on the side of the road, a blind person, help me, Jesus, I can't see. And I thought, well, I'm like Bartimaeus. I just need help. I can't do anything. My brother set an amazing world record, you know, crossing an ocean all by himself. By the way, he had speech output on his navigational instruments. That's how he did it. So how is it, I thought, that I'm a recluse, I have a victim mentality because I'm blind? My brother has set an amazing world record. He said, Miles, the trouble with you, you're focusing on your problems, focusing on what's wrong in your life, on your blindness. He said, if you want to be successful, focus on what you want to do, focus on your dreams. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try that. So I came back to England and thought, okay, my big dream was to be a pilot. So now I don't start with the fact I'm blind. I start with the fact I'm going to be a pilot or skydive or scuba dive or motor race. I start with that, make a decision, then I think, okay, you're blind, you idiot. How do you think you're going to fly if you can't see? But before I was thinking, I can't fly because I'm blind. Now I came back to England and thought, okay, I am going to be a pilot. How can I fly if I can't see? Thought, well, my eyes don't work, but I've got a brain, I've got hands and feet like all pilots. All I need is that information coming off my flight instruments. If I could get that into my brain, I could fly. So my eyes don't work. Is there any other way into my brain? Yes, you dumb. What about these things here? You know, use them. So I got someone to convert all of the flight instruments on my microlight, which is what I fly, into my headphones. So I now fly this little thing. It's not very big. It's about as big as the chairs over there. It's 10 foot long, 4 foot longer than that. And I decided to fly from London to Sydney in Australia in that. Yeah, so many things went wrong from years, you know, for 4 years, things went wrong with technology, blah, blah, blah. But I never gave up believing one day I was going to fly from London to Sydney. It's, as I said, wide as a chair. There's just room for 2 people. Even though I'm fully qualified in England, they will not give me a license just because I'm blind. We call it discrimination, you know, just because you're blind. So, you know, I've applied to EasyJet, Ryanair. No one wants me to be a pilot. It's that bad. Even Ryanair. Anyway, so anyway, had some bumpy landings. So anyway, so I have to have a sighted co-pilot with me to keep it legal. So when I'm flying, everybody thinks my co-pilot's flying, but it's me, but we don't tell air traffic control. So anyway, that's how we do it. So now I'm ready to go. I'm hoping to raise $1 million for little children born blind with cataracts in the developing world. And the Standard Chartered Bank is sponsoring me. I've got my co-pilot. He's been with me for 4 years. He's seen me with my white stick walking around. So now the night before, 10 o'clock at night, we're having a celebration dinner near Biggin Hill, where I was flying from, just outside London. My co-pilot, halfway through his meal, bursts into tears, and he's got a full-blown panic attack. He runs up to the toilet. He's in tears. He's not going to come after all because he's blind. We're going to die, you know. And he's phoning his wife and his kids. Tell the children I love them. I'm not going to do it. And I'm saying, come on, get out of there. We're leaving 9 o'clock tomorrow. BBC, Sky, Reuters, all the world's media. You know, it's a huge thing, you know, big world media. It's a big thing. A blind man flying halfway across. I'm not coming. Why are you having a panic attack now? Why didn't you do it 4 years ago, you dumb? So I don't know. So anyway, so true story, 10 o'clock, you know, by 11 o'clock at night, I'm on my phone trying to find somebody, anybody willing to fly all the way to Australia in a little microlight with a blind pilot. And the amazing thing, I phoned this chap, his name's Richard. He's a farmer, but he also flies microlights. And he was fast asleep, snoring away, 11 o'clock, BBC News going on. He's in his old overstuffed armchair. His wife wakes him up, phone call, chap saying, would you have a flight in a microlight tomorrow? Oh, yes, well, I can do that. To Australia, yes, with a blind man. Oh, anyway, so he said yes. So anyway, we had a most amazing time. Took us 55 days. I stopped, this is Bangladesh Dakar, and I went to this eye hospital. Over 59 eye surgeons doing operations on these little children for £25. There's something like 24 million little children in the world who are blind just because of lack of money. It's a poverty-related disease, these cataracts. And I was there with a little Indian girl of about 25, young mother. On her lap was about a 3-year-old little girl who just had her cataracts removed, taking the bandages off, and someone was describing. She's blinking on. She looks up at her mummy and says, "So that's what you look like, mummy." Oh, and it cost £25, you know. So I was hoping to raise $1 million through that flight to Australia. I will never see again, but the next best thing I can do, and I don't even have to do miracles like Jesus. All I've got to do is get money. That fund, I phoned up about a year ago to the bank. That fund has now reached, a year ago, over $79 million. 2.1 million children, yes. Woohoo! Yes. So, you think about, you know, Tim was up here with little Tobiah, you know. Imagine if Tobiah was blind, walking around like this, you know. There's 24 million little Tobiahs all around the world who are only blind because they haven't got £25, you know. And all the money I raise, the bank doubles it, and it only goes to eye operations. So I have such a time. See, there's 3 kinds of blind people in the world. One lot are you people here, because you don't understand. You see, Helen Keller, an amazing person, she was deaf and blind. She said sight without vision is equal to blindness. So I'm trying to tell people like you, and by the way, I make my living now flying all around the world. I've spoken at over 1,100 global conferences around the world, 70 different countries. When I first went blind, you know, everyone said, "Blind man, just have a job, anything, you know, go and, you know, work in a library or something. If you've got a job, oh, well done, you know." Now, I'm still blind as a bat, but I'm being invited to go all around the world. I've spoken 15 times in the last 2.5 weeks in 7 different countries, and people are paying me, a silly blind man, to come and waste their time. Whoa, you know, isn't that the grace of God, hey? Amazing. So God can use donkeys, and he uses dead sticks, so he's an amazing God. Anyway, so that changed my life, and this is when I was flying over from Darwin, over the Northern Territory, ran out of fuel, strong headwind. I'm only flying, by the way, at 70 miles an hour. It's totally open, and I've flown it at over 20,000 feet, you know, minus 55 centigrade. Quite scary and turbulence. I'm talking about serious turbulence. And anyway, blah, blah. So Northern Territory, ran out of fuel. I just landed on the road, missed all these big cattle trucks, and got pushed it in, and we filled up with fuel, and the barmaids at the local pub stopped all the traffic. Zoop, off we went to go. You do that in England, they put you in jail. But let me just go back. But in Australia, they, you know, do you want a beer? Do you want a Coke? Do it again. It's amazing. So this video clip I'm showing now is me arriving in Sydney, in Australia, 55 days later. Here we go. Bit of volume.
Is behind him, and the world's most beautiful city is unseen beneath his wings.
Between the bridge and the Opera House.
It doesn't matter. In his heart, Miles Hilton-Barber sees everything.
Tiger!
The first blind man to fly across 21 countries in an oversized hang glider.
I can smell what's growing in the fields below the crops.
He navigated with talking instruments and co-pilot Richard Meredith Hardy, who stood in at the last minute.
I got this call. Would you like to fly a microlight to Australia starting tomorrow with a blind man? And, well, what can you say, really?
He said yes!
They froze over the mountains of Lebanon, nearly crashed into cliffs in Malaysia.
Pouring with rain. The engine was bellowing, trying to cope with all the water going through it. Lightning flashes ahead of us.
He risked his life to raise money for blindness programs in third world countries. Miles has also finished the world's toughest foot race, 250 kilometres across the Sahara. He's done the world's coldest marathon in Siberia, sledged 400 kilometres across the Antarctic, and he's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
The only thing holding me back is 5 inches, and that's the distance between my ears. Attitude is what determines altitude.
He hopes Australia smells like a cold beer. Ella Callan, 7 News.
So, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. The big thing I'm trying to say to you is listen, my friends, no matter what is happening in your life, your circumstances do not determine your quality of life. It's your response to your circumstances. Many things in your life, not impossible, you just haven't done them yet. I've got 2 basic fears. I'm afraid of height. This is me abseiling 350 foot down Table Mountain, and I'm terrified of height. And I did a thing called Around the World in 80 ways instead of 80 days. I was on this tall 3-masted sailing ship, and they said, go up into Yardarm. It's 90 feet high, the height of a 9-story building, on this wobbly rope ladder in the middle of this high seas or whatever. I said, no, I'm scared. I'm claustrophobic. I'm afraid of height. They said, don't worry, we'll give you a harness. So I said, put on the harness. I said, where do I clip on? No, you only clip on when you get there. Just off you go. So anyway, but you know what? There's a lovely scripture that says, what can separate us from the love of God? You know, where can I go? Where can I hide from your presence? If I go to the mountaintops, if I go to the depths of the sea, you're there. Baby, I like those lovely verses when things like that are happening. And I'm also, this is me diving on a wreck in the Red Sea, 100 feet down. I was so afraid and claustrophobic, learning to scuba dive in a warm swimming pool, and I was panicking. And the chap said, all right, blind man, you will never be a scuba diver. Get out. You're a total waste of time. I said, I want to be a scuba diver. He says, look, you're panicking in 3 foot warm water in a swimming pool. You dive in a wreck, you're going to drown. What do I do? He says, change the way you think in your head. The air you need, it's not 100 foot up there. It's on your back. That thing in your mouth, there's air there. Dum dum, just breathe, baby, breathe. So anyway, he said, listen, the word for fear in English, F-E-A-R, it stands for false evidence appearing real. That's a big thing. Listen. False evidence appearing real in your head. Every one of us here in this room, no matter who we are, have got some areas of our head wrong thinking. We don't realize how big God is. We don't realize what an amazing person is living inside of us. So whether you've got a particular phobia or just the attitude, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that, rubbish. It's false evidence. It appears real and it holds us back. So that has changed the way I look at things a lot. I decided to be a drag racer. Drag racing is just going straight for a quarter of a mile as fast as you can. This is only a little Honda Civic, but it is a Type R, 6-speed manual box. But this chap gets over 800 horsepower out of it. And this is Santapod, European Drag Racing Championships down the road. I was going to have a go. And he said, blind man, there's no way you're going to drive this car. You'll crash. I said, no, I've got an idea. So I'm starting in fact, I'm going to be a drag racer. Make that decision. All right, Miles. How can you go straight, you know? So we went to a disused airport runway. Said, okay, imagine the runway is a 100-meter athletics track. And as long as I'm going down the middle, you sit next to me in your fancy toy, and you keep on shouting, let's say that's lane number 5. So I'm going down the track, going through the gears. Bzz, bzz, bzz. He says, okay, 5, 5, 5. If I go a bit to the right, 6, 6, 6. If we get right near the edge, 9, 9, 9. So that's how we did it. So I'm feeling quite confident. European Championships. And there's thousands of people from all over Europe, some really fast cars, getting ready for one of my runs, but over the PA system, the silly man tells everybody, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in world history, we've got a blind driver coming down the track. Get out the way, get the dogs in the car, lock up the kids, make way, blind man. Whoa, made me really nervous. So anyway, I wound up the windows, pretended there was nobody there. Here am I heating up the tires, getting ready for one of the runs. Here's the Marshall Ching, we're all strapped up and ready to go. And this is going down the track. Can you see nobody's smiling? Do you notice that? So when I'm going down the track, light goes green, so I'm racing through the gears. I couldn't go in his quickest car because there was no room for him to sit there. But I did 6 runs down the track. And this video I'm running now is one of the runs I did down the track. Here we go.
Slide 20, written yellow number.
Go. Yeah, not too bad. And we're not too far from this time, I think, the weights and our configuration.
So that was great fun. And then I thought, well, okay, this is me just... I burnt out the clutch on the last one. He got a bit upset. I said, it's your fault, you know, 800 horsepower, blah, blah. So then I thought, what about going around corners? So I thought if I can go straight, let's go around corners. This is Cape Town Killarney Circuit in South Africa. This is a 5.6-liter V8 Mustang. This baby does 0 to 60 miles an hour, 2.8 seconds. Whoa, baby, whoa, you know. Anyway, so a lot of fun. Nearly had a bit of a crash because it was very noisy. And the chap with me, I thought he said we were entering the back straight. We were exiting the back straight, but what the heck, we didn't die, and it was a lot of fun. So anyway, and then a little while ago, I was invited to do the New York Marathon. Now, at this stage, I'd done no running for 7 years, and I had a damaged knee. 3 weeks to go. Miles, there's a cancellation. Do you want to do the New York Marathon along with 58,000 other runners? So no training at all. Any of you ever done a marathon? No? Yeah. Okay. A lot of fun. Anyway, so So the obvious answer, no training, damaged knee. Yes, let's go and do it. You know, here's a funny thing I've learned. Sometimes things only come your way once in life. And the lovely thing, I think that life for the Christian is full of green traffic lights. But the trouble is, a lot of us are colorblind, and when something new comes into your life, the first thing, oh, I couldn't do that. Maybe it's at school or church or at home or whatever. Oh, let me think about that. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. But you know what? There's something worse than failing, and that's not getting involved. You see, if you try and fail, it's better than not trying, because you failed already. You know, you've got to be in the race to win, baby, you know. And the sad thing, so many people sit back, oh, I couldn't do that. And you know what? At the end of my life, I will be more concerned about things I have not attempted rather than those I've failed at lots of things. It's been a lot of fun, you know, and I certainly didn't win this run, but so you can see me at the end. It took me over 6 hours, something like 6.5 hours. But you know what? 240 little children can see what their mum looks like because I did that. They don't care if the blind man took 6 days, 6 hours, 6 weeks, 6 years. All they care about, now they can see for the rest of their life. So, you know what, guys? Say yes when an opportunity comes. You know, with God, it's always yes. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. For pity's sake, wake up. You know, one of my heroes is, there was a chap, a president, proper president in America. He was called Teddy Roosevelt, way back in 1910, the last century. He said, his observation, the people who really count in life are not the ones who sit back and spectate. They're just a spectator. Like you go to the circus, you sit in the seats and you watch what's happening on the ring with the clowns or the horses or whatever. He says the people who really count aren't the ones who point out when the strong man stumbles or when charity workers could do things better. He says the people who really count are in the arena of life. Their faces are covered in dust and sweat and blood, for they know their future, their destiny will never be with those cold and timid souls who've tasted neither defeat nor victory. Oh, come with me to the local cemetery here in Manchester. Here lies Joe Bloggs, a cold and timid soul who tasted neither defeat nor victory. Oh, God help us. Is that how you want to be remembered? Yes or no? No, we want to get out there and do something for Jesus. Is that right? Yeah. So listen, the worst you can do is fail, but even failure is a temporary condition. It's a giving up that makes it permanent. So I did the Great North Run as well, and the same bit of a problem. So anyway, since the age of 50, I've had so much fun, and the only change in my life has been my attitude. I'm still as blind as a bat, but now I'm the happiest, the most fulfilled, the most successful I've ever been. My circumstances haven't changed, only my attitude. You can go home today with none of your pressures and stresses at home or at school changing, but your quality of life going through the roof, stress levels going down. It's all to do with attitude. So these video clips I'm running now are some of the things I've done since I turned 50. Here we go.
Slide 30.
So I was the first blind man to fly the English Channel a few years ago. Just crossing the Qatar Desert near Saudi Arabia. I've done 4 desert ultras. This is only 120 miles, but the thing I'm pulling weighs 400 pounds, and I pulled it for 3.5 days without stopping to rest or sleep. Really stupid thing to do, but it was good fun anyway. Wing walk, I'm afraid of height. On this aerobatic Boeing Stearman, trying to get rid of my fear of height. It didn't work, I was very frightened. So anyway, want to be the first blind man to pull a sledge to the South Pole. Great place to go and a wonderful place to visit later on in your life. Wanted to be I think this is, having a race with a British general, first one into the water or something, if I got that right. Hot air ballooning. Oh, sorry, that's me flying a Dornier float plane. Yes, Austrian air display. People saw me flying, they began to vomit over their fancy suits, the business, and they were so terrified seeing a blind person flying it. Having a race with a British general, first one into the, crossing the river in the Royal Engineers there. Hot air ballooning over the Nevada desert, bit of a crash, blood, broken ribs. Americans thought we'd sue them. We just wanted to do that. It was great fun.
The group will need to
climbing Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest mountain.
The route to summit camp means crossing the Barranco Wall, 600 feet of rock face.
There's certainly some dodgy sections where I have to listen very carefully to John when he tells me to keep to the right, and I may know that there's a life-threatening drop on my left. It's quite hard always to listen to the information when you're tired and you just want to get there. So we go through some dodgy places, but it's again me just utterly trusting John. I know that he's giving me good information, and I've just got to go with it and believe that I'm safe with him. Malaysian Grand Prix circuit, there was one just a couple of weeks ago. I hold the lap record for a blind driver, 120 mile an hour through the chicanes. Spun it a few times, but managed to win the race. I never saw the flag, but it was a bonus at the end. People said I was the winner. We kept the black side, the rubber side down, and it was phenomenal. We lost it on a couple of corners, but she's very, very stable, and we had to point her in the right direction a couple of times, but apart from that, we kept going the right way around, which is what it's all about. Tiger!
Never go driving with a blind man.
Just this white water rafting down the Zambezi. I got thrown out. I did 3 sets of rapids without my mummy, quite scary. Crocodiles waiting in the green water. Then I went cage diving with great white sharks off Cape Town. I said, listen, I'm blind. If I can't touch one of those sharks, I won't believe they're there. You're just stealing money from a blind man. Nearly bit my hand, and my wife's at the camera, forgot to click. Woo, sorry, anyway, I'll go and do it again sometime. Flying the channel at 5,000 feet, amazing circumstance. Imagine you're going all the way to Australia in a little thing that size. Wonderful, wonderful experience, and one of the great dreams of my life fulfilled. Bobsleighing down the Olympic track in Lillehammer, Norway, getting out to more than 80 miles an hour in less than 1 minute, pulling 5 Gs around 17 corners. It's quite scary. It's much more shocking and violent than you realize when you just look at it on the telly with the Winter Olympics. But really good fun. You'll enjoy it if you go there someday. It's the British Olympic bob. Scuba diving. I love diving on wrecks. False evidence appearing real. I've overcome my claustrophobia by the grace of God. Skidoo racing in Norway, 150 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 mile an hour, 3.2 seconds, a bit slower, but still doing over 100 mile an hour over the ice there. And this is me doing the solo kamikaze skeleton run, probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Remember Canadian Winter Olympics, somebody died? Silly thing to do. Just a great experience, and I'm hoping that I can encourage other blind people to come and do this as well. Apparently a lot of people do it with their eyes shut, so it's not such a big deal, yeah. So that was amazing, and then all the time I'm thinking about the next thing, what can I do next? I want to be the first blind man to pull a sledge to the South Pole. I want to be the first blind man to climb Everest, and something went wrong. They thought I died in the Himalayas, but it was just a temporary problem. So I thought, well, after climbing Kilimanjaro, yes, I was on halfway up Kilimanjaro, and I said to John, listen, if I can't do Everest next year, I want to be the first blind man to pull a sledge to the South Pole. That's right down the bottom of the world. You people have been doing indoor camping last night, is that right? This is proper camping, baby. This is camping. So anyway, but it was so much fun. The ice underneath that tent is 5,000 feet thick. And Antarctica is twice as big as Australia. Beautiful place to go to. It took 9 weeks from when I made that decision, let's go to the South Pole. 9 weeks from setting it up, getting a funding, learning about it, and being on an airplane on my way to South America. It doesn't have to take a long time. After going to Australia, I thought, well, this is the airplane I would have flown in the Rhodesian Air Force. I thought, well, I can fly a microlight. What about flying a Hawker Hunter? Phone this chap up. He's an ex-Red Arrows wingman. Andy, I'd like to come and fly a Hawker Hunter. Whoever you are, he says, you've got to be a fully qualified pilot. Yes, yes, yes. Went through a big checklist on the phone. So a few weeks later, I got out the car with the white saying, hello, Andy, it's Miles. I'm here. Where are you? And where have you hit in the airplane? I'm so excited. He says, whoa. Airplanes, yeah, it's a big airplane. And what's that stick for? I said, well, it's because I'm blind. He said, you never told me on the phone you were blind. I said, I'm sure I did. He said, it was a funny conversation. You told me you were not a kind pilot, a blind pilot. So we had to have a big, serious conversation. But here am I, at the age of 57, blind as a bat. When I was 18, no, you'll never fly. Here I am at 57, spooling up this beautiful Rolls-Royce engine. Here am I doing the takeoff and doing a flyby. The Discovery Channel in Canada heard about it, and they made a little mini documentary, and this is just a brief clip of me flying the Hawker Hunter. Here we go.
Slide 38, Hunter video.
Experience from flying his ultralight.
Put your foot over the edge, Miles.
He can't even find his way into the cockpit.
Put your leg to the other side. That's it, lovely.
A quick overview of the controls, and he's on.
So full of anticipation, lots of adrenaline.
3, 2, 1 now.
That's me doing the takeoff.
Woohoo! Okay, up in the blue sky, we're now on the 36 knots, and this is stick 4. Upside down, rolling, open. Mouse, I'm flying this as well as a sighted person.
Oh, no.
Look flying by yourself, I'm not touching it. G-force, here it comes. Oh!
That's pulling 5Gs, doing a loop.
G. I'm relaxed a second. Relaxing. Pull that full loop. Coming up.
After a few minutes, though, the world rate starts to become a bit much.
I'm just feeling a bit sick.
I did the landing trying not to vomit. It's very hard to vomit and land a fighter jet at the same time.
He manages to hold himself together long enough for the plane to land.
You get the voice cues, you can fly as accurate as a sighted person. It's amazing, I've never seen it like.
It was a dream come true, much more real than I thought, just quite amazing, the G-forces. And I keep on saying to people, you can live your dreams. More and more I'm realizing that there are many sighted people in the world who are actually blind to their own ability, and I'm trying to give them vision.
So I thought, thank you very much, thank you. So, no matter what you're able to do, no matter what you've done in your life so far, there's always more, there's always more, there's always more. So I'm thinking, okay, I've done aerobatics. The next thing I want to do was to go supersonic. So this is an English electric lightning. Have any of you young people seen the film Top Gun? If you haven't seen Top Gun, shame on you, you know? It's part of your education. So with Tom Cruise, and so this is Cape Town, a place called Thunder City at the international airport. And I had the same television crew from Canada, from the Discovery Channel, and had to ask where the cameras were. Had to borrow some dark glass. I don't normally want. And I was asking where the camera was, and I was practicing whipping the glass or giving the evil eye like Tom Cruise does when he's fallen for this girl in Top Gun. And I'm a lot taller than Tom. A few girls have. Anyway, my kids get so embarrassed. Dad, don't do this. We're so embarrassed. Anyway, but it's a lot of fun. So it was just opportunity when it comes along. Here am I, climbing into the cockpit, very small cockpit, actually quite claustrophobic. Here are my taxi, getting ready to take off. It's got two engines, like that Hawker Hunter, it's got two of them, one on top of the other. Flying this lightning, it's an amazing aircraft. If you've seen Top Gun, this aircraft is about 30% more powerful than those F-14s. One of the most powerful aircraft that's ever been made in the world. There's none of them flying now. But I went down the runway, went vertical at the end of the runway. 1 minute after takeoff, I was at 50,000 feet doing Mach 1.4 in a vertical climb, over 1,000 miles an hour. I became the first blind pilot in world history to vomit at supersonic speed, you know? And it takes guts, as my son said. Don't be so disappointed. I phoned up the Guinness Book of Records, because they got funny records like, how many pies can a fat man eat in a minute? I said, I got a new one. I'm talking about projectile vomiting, you know, serious projectile vomiting. I was flying, if you watch the football games, I'm going from one goalpost to the other, the equivalent speed, taking 0.2 of a second to go from one to the other. 5 football fields a second, the most amazing experience. So I won't show you me being sick, but this video clip I'm running now just shows you what it's like me doing the takeoff. Here we go. There are no limits in our life except those that we accept ourselves. And if a blind man can have the privilege of being at the controls of a supersonic fighter, you can do anything you want with your own life.
We're really accelerating. We're just passing 300 knots now, coming up into the runway. And we're about to go straight up. Here we're going straight up. Oh man, we're now going way to go!
Just one of those magic experiences I'll never forget. So a big thing I've learned also, don't just have big dreams in your life, but when things go wrong, don't give up. You know what? In the Bible, again and again, you know, God says in Corinthians and elsewhere, no matter what life throws at you, there's always a way through. God is faithful, will never allow us to be tempted or put in a situation too big. No matter what you're going through now, at home, in your family, at school, whatever, there's a way through. So I decided when my brother sailed to Australia that to get fit. I'd done no running since I was 17. So at 50, I entered a thing called the toughest foot race in the world, 150 miles through the Sahara Desert, rucksack on your back. Someone said, blind man, you can get blisters on your feet. So I was putting surgical spirit, rubbing alcohol, ran out, went to the chemist to get some more. Didn't explain properly what I was using it for. They gave me acetone instead, and I put that on my feet without reading the label. So can you imagine have any of you ever had a blister? You had blisters? They're cheeky little things, aren't they? So, and also, I had a stress fracture. I cracked my ankle bone 2 weeks before doing a 70-kilometer run with too many rocks in my rucksack. And so the sports physio strapped it up. Do not walk in it for 6 weeks. Here are a pair of crutches. 2 weeks later, I'm doing this run through the Sahara Desert. I decided, you know, God, I want to see if I can trust you, if I can just persevere. And I don't have to give up. So I want to say to you, no matter what's going on in your life now, I've met a lot of amazing people, Ranulph Fiennes and Bear Grylls and all these guys. One common fact in all of their lives, they go through times on expeditions, everything goes wrong, but if you don't give up, you know, the Bible is full of people who just endure and persevere. And this video clip, Carlton TV made a documentary. I want to just remind you here, you know, and by the way, if you think there's something special about me, you can telephone my wife afterwards. You say, oh baby, there's nothing special about Miles at all. In fact, as all of us men know, behind every successful man, there's a surprised woman. Isn't that right? And my wife is very surprised. So, but this video clip is a reminder, if we persevere, anything is possible for God. Here we go.
Slide 48.
A nightly ritual for most runners, a visit to the dreaded medic tent.
It's broken all 3 sides all the way around. Yeah, so it's just taking that.
Michel, we cut the top of the blister off and put antiseptic on. It's less liable to go septic that way. They're very good at it. That's all right.
Only 2 weeks ago, Miles' feet were already in a mess. He'd been using white spirit to harden his soles for the desert, but a shop assistant had given him acetone instead. Not being able to read the label, he'd used it and burnt off several layers of skin.
That's quite sore there, sir.
With 5 days still to go, a trip to the medic tent and possible elimination had to be faced.
Swinging right, Miles. I can see the finish.
For Miles and John, the proof that they too have conquered the toughest foot race on earth.
You got it. I'm very happy.
It's good to be here. You got your medal? I got it. Very heavy. We don't have to run with her. Yeah. Super level. So, friends, thank you very much. Thank you. It is totally normal for the wheels fall off in life. You know, life isn't fair. I don't know if you understand that. Life isn't fair. A lot of good things, bad things. But you know what? You just got to get on with it. And the big thing, of course, you've got to have a sense of humor. This is me at the bottom of the Red Sea. The man in the wheelchair, paralyzed, no legs. It's the only photograph in the world of a blind man pushing a paralyzed man in his wheelchair along the bottom of the Red Sea, using my white stick to find the way. You know, why did we do it? We just did it for fun. You know, it was great fun. So, thank you. Yeah. And the good news, I've got a little card with that photograph on, and afterwards, on your way out, every one of you will get one of this. And on the bottom of that picture, it says the only limits in your life are the ones that you accept yourself. So, you know, I've been through a lot of hard times, ups and downs, but you keep a sense of humor. It's amazing what you can do. This chap in the wheelchair drives his own car with hand controls, not a Ford Focus. He drives a V12 Ferrari. He's got serious attitude, baby, attitude. Isn't that amazing? So it's not what happens to you in life, it's what you do with what happens to you in life. That is where your quality of life comes from. That's when Jesus makes all the difference. My grace is sufficient for you. God could heal me, or he doesn't. You know, I've never been as content. You know, shut your eyes. All of you, close your eyes tight. That's what I can see. I can see nothing. Okay, open your eyes, you know. So listen, I'm happier now as a blind man than when I could see. If that isn't the grace of God, what is? Isn't that right? Woohoo! Yes. So great. So doesn't matter what life throws at you. There's always a way through. And of course, you got to work together. I took part in a canoe race from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean through the Panama Canal. These were the big enemies. These ships used to swamp us, and then we swimming around with big crocodiles and things. These guys won the race, but these girls from California came sixth. They beat most, 78 of the 84 teams. They weren't the strongest, but they were the most united. My fingertips are the strengths in my life, valleys in between are my weaknesses. My friend John and I, we don't fight who's best at this and that. We use our strengths to cover each other's weaknesses. In fact, John is profoundly deaf, and I'm blind, so that is a very bad combination, in extreme situations. We nearly had a few serious things. Anyway, but the big thing I want to say to you, friendship is such a big thing in life, caring for one another. Some of you maybe feel as though maybe some of you come from mixed up families, different mums and dads and whatever. But I'll tell you what, all of us here in this room have got a Heavenly Father beautiful, beautiful Father who will never leave us, who will never forsake us, who loves us. You've all got a family. You know, some of you don't understand. Maybe you've come for the first time. You don't understand this thing about church and all that. The youth group, the people who've invited you there, that's a family there. You've got two families. You've got your earthly family, which might be good, may not be so good. You've got a heavenly family that's absolutely perfect. And the person who's taught me so much is this chap, John. He's my best friend. He says he's my only friend because nobody else likes me. That's what he says about me. You know, just the other day, he was saying to his friends that the day that he met me, that was the day that God cursed his life. That's not nice, is it? And it's only because we've nearly died a few times and he blames me, which is pathetic. You know, get a sense of humor. So anyway, and the sad thing is he doesn't look like he's a very, very ugly man. So I've had to use like Photoshop to make him acceptable so I didn't give you nightmares, you know. Apparently, when he was born, his mum was in labor for over 20 hours. Finally, he came out with a grunt and a shove. Consultant been up all night, took to look at this little Martian creature, gave his mum a slapping for producing this terrible monster. When he was 3 or 4 years old, he was still so desperately ugly, even their own family dog refused to play with him unless they had to first tie a pork chop around his neck. What a sad story. My theory is that when he fell out of the ugly tree, he must have hit all the branches on the way down, you know? But you know what? Even ugly people can be important in life. So if some of your friends are not as good as you, do not reject them. They're still good people to have, you know. In fact, John is very wise. He says, never judge another man or woman until you walked in their shoes for at least 1 mile. That way, when you do judge them, you're 1 mile away and you've got their shoes, you know. So, and he says also, if you're short of money, pocket money, whatever, always borrow money from a pessimist. They won't expect to get it back again. So you see, he might be ugly, but he's very wise, you know. But in seriousness, you imagine going around the circuit. John is, you know, I couldn't live my dreams without John. He's such an important thing. And you and I, we can't live our dreams without Jesus. Isn't that right, you know? He is the one who says, listen, you know, follow me. I'll always be with you. I'll never forsake you. I'll never leave you. I love you. I'll provide for you every day. He's the most wonderful friend. John, we also need friends on earth, you know. And Jesus said, you know, there are friends that stick closer to a brother. That's what Jesus is to us. But you need, you know, if you want to have a good friend, you've got to be willing to be a good friend, to have a good friend. And John has been such a good mate. We've been through lots of crisis situations. This is us really wanting to climb Everest a few years ago. But the last video clip I'm showing you is really to talk about friendship. Going to the South Pole, we were traveling faster to the South Pole than any other expedition, despite having a blind idiot who'd never skied on snow before we went to Antarctica. People said, Miles, how will you be guided once you get to Antarctica in blizzards and whiteouts and crevasses and all that? I said, I don't know. Listen, you can't go there without knowing if it's going to work. I said, well, why not? You know, they say that life begins at the edge of your comfort zone, so give it a go or you'll never know. Isn't that right? There's nothing worse than passing up and saying, oh, I wish I'd tried that, but now it's too late. Say yes. The worst you can do is fail, but even failure, it's a growing experience. So on the way to the South Pole, after 37 days, despite we were going so well, I got frostbite in my fingertips. It was a circulation problem I didn't know I had. Nothing to do with my blindness. I would have been the first person from any country in Africa to reach the South Pole. It's a very tiring thing, pulling a sledge 10 hours a day. Anyway, so the long and short, after 37 days, I had to fly back to the UK for treatment. John said, do you want me to fly back? I said, please, John, you carry on without me with the other two guys. Raising money, had a white stick, had a flag on it. If we can get that flag in at the South Pole, raise a lot of money for these blind kids. He said, Miles, if you want me to carry on without you, I will. And that's what John did. And this last video clip is just a reminder about friendship, caring for one another. And this is a reminder of the incredible friend that John has been to me. Here we go.
Slide 60. Slide 61.
We've got a crevassed area to start with, I understand. We'll be on skis most of the time and using ski poles to help us with our pace, etc. A lot of it is going to be mental, I think. It's a long time to slog 8 or 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Day one of the actual expedition. And I think we're going to take it one day at a time. That's the way to conquer most things.
I think we now know how enormous this task is. And it's just it's obscene, really.
The routine we got into is an hour and a half walking and then a quarter of an hour break, which means that in an hour and 3/4, which is the same time as it takes to get on a train from Derby and go down to London. We've done that 6 times today, and all that time it's like sitting on a train with no one to talk to, no book to read, not being able to sleep, and you just got to fill your mind with something the whole time. It's really bizarre. So all that time it's just trying to occupy your mind and keep your mind going. And not only that, it's about -30, and you're pulling a sledge behind you as well.
1 or 2 toes I can do without, but my hands are my life, they're my eyes. This lack of feeling started in my fingertips fairly soon after we left.
This isn't the end of life, just because you're going home now. You can go home with your head high. Done a lot for the RNIB, done a lot for yourself, done a lot for friends around. So,
yeah, if I can't make it to the pole, then I'm asking you to take the flag for the Royal National Institute for the Blind to continue the expedition.
Yeah.
And I'm charging you with, to the best of your ability, to plant that flag, to have it flying at the South Pole. I'm very excited about seeing him again here.
Great friendships, mate.
Well done, John. Congratulations. Fantastic.
That flag that John took to the pole, thank you very much. Thank you. That flag that John took to the pole, 2 weeks later, Savoy Hotel in London, big fancy dinner, black tie. I said to the people, they saw that video clip, said, here's the flag John took, now we're going to auction it. Nobody can keep it, it's going to go on display at the headquarters in London. You can see it if you go there. But if you give us a check, £50, £100 towards these blind children, you can have a photograph with a flag, then afterwards we keep the flag, we keep your check, you get a picture. Fair enough? So I thought they would give us a little bit. They were so struck by the friendship of John, they fought over that flag. Somebody finally wrote us a check for £53,000, and they couldn't even keep the flag. And if John hadn't been so ugly, we would have got £100,000. So here's my closing slide. That's the road I took to say. What am I saying to you today? I'm telling you, life is good because of what's happening here, not what's happening out there. When Jesus is here, you know, Jesus knows the worst about you, and yet he loves you the best. I saw a lot of you come forward last night. Wonderful. I'll tell you what, a lot of you didn't go forward, and you need to. You'll have a chance in a moment. But you know what I've learned? Quality of life, it's not my blindness, it's my response to it. I've had so much fun. Now I start with my dreams, I don't start with my problems. Have a lot of fun. I persevere when things go wrong, and I have a lot of fun. You know, life is a wonderful gift that God gives us every single day. Friendship, so important. Have Jesus as your best friend. Have other friends here. You've got another family in church and the youth group, so take care of them. And remember this thing, caring for one another. This is the route I took to Australia when, you know, some 30 years after being told at the age of 18 miles, you will never fly, never be a pilot. You know, 40 or so years later, as blind as a bat, had the wonderful God-given privilege of flying more than halfway around the world. Never let anybody tell you, beautiful people, whether you can live your dreams or not, because the only limits in your life are the ones that you accept yourself, because God is limitless. Isn't that right? God bless you. Thank you very much.